right, having reached the appointed hour and the time and place, I call this meeting to order. If you'll all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. McKinnon.
Here.
Mrs. DeFort.
Here.
Mrs. Winstanley.
Here.
Mr. Shipley.
Here. All right, at this time, I would accept a motion for the approval of agenda items.
I move the Grand Ledge Public Schools Board of Education approve the July 10th, 2017 agenda items as presented.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same sign. That motion passes. The consent agenda, or the, now I'll accept a motion for the approval of agenda items.
I move the Grand Ledge Public Schools Board of Education approve the July 10th, 2017 consent agenda items as presented.
Sorry, we have trespasser visitor.
I'm sorry.
I was like, can't get a second?
The legs are moving.
I'll second your motion.
I did give a second.
Okay.
In between all of
Everything.
that,
All
I'm
right.
sorry.
With the motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion passes. On the consent agenda items that just were passed, we had the closed session minutes for April 23rd and the meeting and closed session minutes from June 26th. Did you want to discuss the teacher hirings?
Mike.
Welcome.
How do we use this mic? Can you hear me? We have a few of our teachers here this evening. I'm so glad that they were able to come. I'm glad they were able to come here to this evening. We've hired, with this hiring will be 11 teachers were hired so far this year. 4 of whom are here tonight. Shannon Black is going to be a 4th grade teacher. She's waving her hand out there. Shannon at Beagle. Also Allison McCrae. Even though it says 6th grade, she's actually going to be a 3rd grade teacher at Beagle. There's some changes there. Heather Vanderlaan is going to be a 1st grade teacher at Beagle. And Jennifer Glaybach. Jennifer's sitting over by Jim. She's going to be a 1st grade teacher at Willow Ridge. So those are 4 of our teachers. Those, some of the other teachers that are new hirees that aren't here, Aaron Houston, his wife's having a baby this week, if not already last week, I'm not sure. Adam Woolsey is getting married this week. Michelle Stabley's in Florida because she's moving from Florida. Emily Tekovic is from Colorado. She may be overseas right now, though. She may be back also. Katie Boyd is in Ireland. So they all, and also Emily Hanlon's from Colorado. So they all have relatively valid excuses. We have talked to Kelly. I'm not sure about her, but nonetheless, it's kind of exciting what people. We did a national search and we got all these great candidates. But no, honestly, I've received contact with all the various people, the references. Of course, they're going to say good things, but I was astounded because when I got done, I had to like 7 of them. I thought, you know what? All of them had 4 or 5 resumes. I'm just going to send out an email. They can call me if they want to, or they can just respond. And some of the glowing comments were made about these individuals. We are going to do well with each one of them, and we're excited, and they're excited to be here, and we just want to welcome you and thank you for coming this evening.
Welcome.
Also, don't feel obligated. If you have other things that are more important or more interesting, you can leave. It's okay.
Maybe more interesting.
All right. Next, we have reports. I'll take the Capital Connections report. Thankfully, we are the.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
Thank you
being
so much,
here.
guys. The legislature is on break. At last meeting, I talked about the MIPSers package and the budget, neither of which at this point have been signed. However, the MIPSers package has been presented to the governor, so it's on his desk and the clock has started. And that's really all I've got at this time. We don't have an Eaton Reese report. The Grand Ledge Education Foundation.
They have not met since our last meeting.
Excellent. The Grand Ledge Parks and Recreation.
We could not get a quorum together. So we also did not meet.
And the Superintendent's report.
Just a couple of items. First of all, I went through Delta Mills today, and I can tell you that it is absolutely amazing transition from where it was 6 months ago to the progress thus far. We are on target to be done around the 1st of August. And once we have that done, I think there's an open house around August 9th. So if there's anybody in the community that would like to go out and look and see what's been done, I can tell you it's going to be an exceptional early childhood center. And I know that we'll have many, many young comments there enjoying preschool and getting ready for kindergarten. So that it's absolutely fantastic. Second, we continue to see progress made on the community stadium. They have poured the external or exterior wall, cement wall that goes around it. They have some more drainage that they're going to put in, and then you'll see if you drive by lots of stone in front that's going to go on top next. But they hope to turn that project over to, I want to say it's ProTurf, if I'm not mistaken, who will actually come in and put down the Progress, thank you, who will actually come in and put the turf on top of it. And they want to turn that over next week sometime, so it's coming right along. It's going to be fantastic when it's done. Really excited about the progress.
And we're expecting to have kids out practicing on it in August.
Our first football game is August 21, I believe, so August 17th, there's, I think, a soccer match as well. August 21 is soccer, yep. We'll have contests and practices and other events on it in mid-August.
All right, that brings us to the public comment on non-agenda items. Great. Next item on our agenda is new business. The first reading of handbook revisions, the student handbook revisions.
Be me then, eh? You all can hear me, right? Yeah. Okay. Well, we did make some revisions as a staff to our handbook. Well, we're hoping to make the revision for our attendance policy at Hayes in an effort to mirror the attendance policy of the high school to get our students set up for what's to come in high school. In our monthly or weekly meetings at MTSS each week, we've noticed an influx in absences this school year, and as well as tardiness to class. So what we did as a staff is we looked at what was in the handbook currently and looked at what we could do as a staff to maybe decrease the amount of tardies and decrease the number of absences, and to mirror our policy to match what the high school does. With that being said, we put together a PowerPoint, and that's displayed on the screen here. And a lot of what's been sent to you via the memo is reflected in this PowerPoint. So I'm just going to run through this PowerPoint fairly quickly. Feel free to stop and let me know if you have any questions. And this PowerPoint will not only be used with the students during Comet Pride lessons early in the school year, but this will also be displayed during the orientation before school begins. So it will encourage parents in a proactive way to look at the handbook, read it over, find where it's at online and things of that nature. So we'll just get going with the PowerPoint here. The middle button, right, Kim? Bottom? Okay. There we go. So we open with our, Comet Pride, focus on the positive with school-wide PBIS. And just some reasons as to why it's important to attend school daily. A lot of the quotes we put in here in the research is based upon that 10%, you know, that 10% missing 10% of school leads to potential dropout. And as we get deeper into the PowerPoint, you'll see that 6 absence limit per trimester, which is similar to what the high school does. Well, in a 55-day trimester, 6 days is that magical 10% number. So, and just more attendance facts and things of that nature for parents to look over, students to look over. And we have the challenge up front, very similar to what the high school did a few years back, and it was very successful, especially with decreasing the amount of tardies. It dramatically cut the number of tardies immediately within the first year of implementation. And then we have a little language about the handbook, and you know, I took quite a few phone calls this year regarding where do we find the handbook, where is it at? So we felt it would be very beneficial for both students and parents to show them where the handbook can be found. So we have this, you know, go to the Hayes Middle School webpage and then click there for the updated handbook. And then we get into the attendance policy. And we pretty much let parents know that there's no distinction between absence excused and absence unexcused. 6 is the limit per trimester. 7 absences or more will result in a loss of extracurricular privileges. You know, the high school, you have that credit factor, credit, no credit. Whereas in middle school, you know, for graduation and walking across the stage, whereas in middle school, we don't necessarily have that pulling power, but we do have that pulling power with that the extracurricular privileges. Prearranged and extended absences, so we're encouraging parents to notify the school 10 school days prior to an extended absence. Of course, we would work with families, you know, if an unforeseeable circumstance arose, death in the family, what have you, immediately. We had a student, for example, this year that had to fly to India for a family emergency, and they were gone for like 14 or 15 academic days. But the parent was proactive. They got all the missing work ahead of time, and when that child came back to school, all that missing work was turned in. So there will be an extended absence form that the parent is expected to sign in advance, which is pretty much a contract stating that they will gather all the work, or the student I should say, gather all the work and attempt to get the work completed. There will be an attendance contract at the beginning of the year, which is pretty much the handbook sign-off that parents have at the beginning of the school year. And the contract will identify the attendance standards, protocols for absences and protocols for calling in and things of that nature. And it will identify incentives for good attendance and consequences for attendance that's marginal.
Can you tell us about that process at the beginning of the year, how the handbook is brought to the students and how it's brought to the parents? And you said that they signed something. Can you kind of walk me through that? I mean, it's kind of part of PBIS and all that. So
right, it's a form stating that they have, you know, updated the emergency card, that they've obtained the child's schedule, and when those don't get signed, we try to mail those out to parents and request that those get signed off on. And we are going to revise that this year, and a lot of those are handed out at orientation when they come in to pick up schedules.
okay. And then is it gone? Are the handbooks gone over with the students in academic times at all?
We try to use Comet Pride Time,
Right.
and then we also, Julie Taylor and I, we do, you know, the 7th and 8th grade orientation, where we do unfortunately have to, during academic time, have students come down. It's usually about 1 hour of a certain student's time per day, come down, and we go through a fast version of the handbook and expectations in advance, and that's usually like the 2nd or 3rd week of school. So
Okay.
that's early on. But I believe we are going to use a separate Pride Time to have students review this PowerPoint. So not only will this PowerPoint be posted during orientation, it will also be shown to students during a Pride lesson, which is about 20-25 minutes with their first hour teacher. So that just kind of talks about what being on time looks like, what the expectations are, being in the room before the bell rings, and getting started immediately. Tardies, we wanted to change how we monitor tardies and change how we, you know, consequate students regarding repeated tardies, of repeated offenders. Again, TE and TU, tardy excused and tardy unexcused, are treated the same way. 3 tardies in any one class results in the tardy violation. And this is where the change takes place. This kind of talks about, you know, how the tardy is recorded. After the second tardy, the teacher meets with the student, and then the teacher notifies the ISS coordinator. However, ISS coordinator usually is running attendance 2 times a week. So if the teacher is not able to communicate with the ISS coordinator 99% of the time will catch that. So she uses PowerSchool to look at that. And then here are the consequences. Prior to this change, you know, so for example, to get violation number 1, a student would have to have 3 tardies in that class. That leads to a lunch ISS. Previously, it would be sets of 3 for a violation. So violation number 1 was 3 tardies in that class. Violation number 2, 3, 3, 3. Now it's changed. So if they continue that behavior and they have, after their first violation, and they have 4 tardies in that same hour, the consequences increase from that point forward. So we're hoping with this new plan, this new strategy, this will deter students from being late to class and encourage them to be on time to class. And after being in the building for a year, I can honestly say 5 minutes is ample passing time in that building, especially with 7th and 8th grade segregated. You know, one end of the building 7th grade, one end is 8th grade. I do feel that this policy is fair. Another change this year was the PM detentions. We have a paraprofessional position that goes till 3:30, and we utilize that for afternoon detentions, especially for our Tier 2 and Tier 3 populations. You know, your Tier 3 special education students that have acted out in school and need some form of a consequence to, you know, remediate that behavior. We like to use the PM detention. Of course, what that looks like is we call home, we make sure arrangements for transportation are made and make it clear to the parents that the student needs to be picked up between 3:30 and 3:45. So we've incorporated those PM detentions, and we were using those as necessary this year when students were routinely tardy to classes. We would, instead of having them sit in school suspension all day, which students were figuring out, hey, if I continue to be late for class, I'll get ISS all day. So what do? So we were using the PM detentions to try to deter that. Also, we've added in there extracurricular activities because some students are athletes that struggle with their attendance or being on time with the class. So we've incorporated that, and around violation number 4, that's where the no extracurricular activities comes into play.
I have a question for you. Why
Yes.
are the excused tardies and unexcused, they're both treated the same? Is there a reason then you're still keeping both, or just?
Yes, a lot of times what we've found is tardy excused is always first hour, and it's habitual, and it's a pattern, and it needs to end, because there are students that come in and they have maybe in a trimester 15 tardies first hour, and they're all at TE, tardy excused, and then you communicate with the families and you come to find out that they're not school of choice kids, so they're not driving from a distance or within district. It's a routine pattern of behavior. So that's why we've made the decision to, and again, this was consensus from our staff. This wasn't just Julie and I sitting down and saying, but yeah, it's a pattern of behavior in its first and second hour. So. And then we just talk about what a lack of Comet Pride would look like. We'll go over that with the students, frequent absences, missing the first hour of the day. And then we'll have also increased amount of incentives for good attendance. So rewards including treats, passes to sporting events, end of trimester parties, and then a perfect attendance drawing for large prizes, so large gift cards and things of that nature. And then just people to contact if you're having trouble getting to school on time or issues with attendance. So, and then we have a competition in there. First day, 20 days competition between 7th and 8th graders. The class with the best overall attendance will win 2 pride tickets and an hour assembly with prizes and rewards during a pride time. And that's it. Are there any questions?
Thank you very much.
All right, you're welcome.
I will take just a minute to point out the other changes to the handbooks that are being recommended. First of all, we want to add vaping devices. Sometimes our policies are silent to some of the new inventions that we see in society, and we're seeing some vaping devices being used and brought in. We want to make sure we're very specific in expressing that those are not allowed within the school building or on school, on students' person or their materials. And the other thing that I'll point out is we will add the in-school probation program at the middle school handbook, which would mirror the high school in-school probation. We did not have that language in the past, although we did use that opportunity for students that would have illicit drugs or alcohol. We just want to be, again, very transparent in what's in the student handbook so that parents and or students will know what to expect and will have that to refer to if they find themselves in that position.
So that doesn't require any action this evening.
No action this evening. If there's concerns, thoughts, if you think of something in the next 5 days or 10 days, certainly give me a buzz or drop me an email and let me know what your concerns or thoughts are. This will be brought back for board approval at the next board meeting on August 14th.
Excellent. Brings us to public comment on agenda items. How about comments from the staff and board? We'll start with the staff. Nothing.
I just want to say, Dr. Johnson, thank you for the excellent job in recruiting all these teachers that were very impressive. And I went through their resumes. It was unbelievable. So once again, you know, we are getting excellent teachers for our students. And I'd just like to say thank you. And thanks to the teachers that are going to become part of the staff.
Excellent. Future topics. There's a board bond advisory meeting Monday, August 14th at 5:30 in Sodden Room 107, followed by a work session Monday, August 14th, 2017 at 6 o'clock in the Sodden Administrative Conference Room. Then there will be a regular meeting in this room on Monday, August 28th at 6 p.m.
So no additional meeting in July.
No, this is our only meeting for July. Well, having completed all regularly appointed business before the board, I call us adjourned.
Well done.
What do I have to sign?
We all have these, right? Do we have to sign
Go back
these?
to Kim.